The anime we have today is bloody. A little or a bit more, but God willing, you will like it. And as with every video, don't forget to like, get the clip to 20 likes, and subscribe to the channel if this is your first time. Year 1600, in the Battle of Sekigahara, Shimazu charges forward amidst his army, boasting. Even while being targeted, they couldn't touch a single hair on his head. Despite all this, his army was losing, but he was the only one still fighting. He sees his soldiers losing but doesn't surrender and continues fighting. However, the enemy receives reinforcements. His uncle tells him, "Let's retreat." Shimazu says, "No, you flee. Leave it to me. I have decided to die here and am confident that you will unite Japan under your rule." He stays with a group of his soldiers facing the enemy cavalry. He tells the soldiers prepare and opens fire on them, but that doesn't stop them. He personally intervenes, cutting through enemy soldiers. Everyone is amazed by his strength, but I will take your head with me. The soldiers stand in front of their commander and raise their spears. "We won't let you touch our commander." He runs at full speed, trying to reach him with his palm, but the spears pierce his body. He must be dead, that's what everyone thought. But suddenly a weapon appears from his back, and he fires a shot to the heart. Despite all the injuries, he's still not dead. The soldiers take Nomura and retreat to treat him. He says, wait, I want his head. I was first." He reaches the night Shimazu was born in. But due to the excessive blood loss, he can't continue. Suddenly he finds himself in a white place, a long corridor full of doors, with a person sitting in the middle reading a journal and holding a cup of espresso. He says, "You, Shimazu, enter this door." Shimazu is pulled into the door and finds himself on Greenland. Behind him, two brothers appear speaking a strange language because they are from the elf tribe. They say, "Is this one of the drifters? If so, what do we do? If we help him, we might get a contract, but we can't just let him die. Let's take him to the old castle and leave him there without being seen." They drag him until sunset and reach the old castle. They try to take him inside but hear a voice from behind saying, "If you move, you will die." "Why are you here?" The elf says, "This is one of the drifters. We brought him because he's injured and will die." The man says, "Fine, leave him and get out of here quickly." The two elves withdraw from inside the castle. One says, "What's inside?" The man says, "The elves brought a drifter who is still alive. I think we can treat him." After 2 days, he wakes up and finds someone next to him drawing his sword and attacking him. The man stops him. "Who are you?" "No, you answer first." "Who are you?" He notices a crest above his head and says, "This is the crest of the Odi clan." "You are from the Odi clan?" The man says, "From the clan? Don't you know who I am? I am the clan itself. I am Oda Nobunaga, founder of the Odi clan." Shimazu says, "Liar, Oda Nobunaga died a long time ago. I must be dead, and you are an imposter." A third man stops it and says to Shimazu, "The seamstress treated your wounds well. We'll get some use out of you. You get a duck, and you get a duck during her workshop. We want to have lunch. After lunch, we'll continue talking." Nobunaga says to him, "People think I'm dead." He says to him, "Nobunaga did indeed die after being betrayed in the castle. That was 18 years ago." He says, "What 18 years? Only 6 months have passed since the incident of the betrayal." Shimazu said, "So as I said, you are a demon or a ghost." The third man laughs and says, "Don't be surprised. 15 or 18 years are very trivial numbers." Shimazu says, "Who are you?" He says, "Let me introduce myself. I am Yoichi." "What? Yoichi who?" "Yoichi from the Genpei War. The Genpei War happened in 1180, meaning 420 years ago. I must be dreaming." Nobunaga says, "You recognized us. Now tell us who you are." He tells them, "I am Shimazu from the village of Satsuma." Shimazu says, "Well, I want to know what happened. How did you come to this world?" He says, "There was an attempt to assassinate me, but I escaped with my wife. Suddenly, I found myself in a white corridor, and in front of me was a person wearing glasses. He is the one who brought me here." Ichi says, "I also met the same man, a femme man." Shimazu says, "Me too." Nobunaga says, "Since 18 years have passed, can you tell me what happened to my son?" Shimazu says, "He died. The troops that betrayed you headed to the castle, and he stayed there fighting until he was killed by them." Nobunaga says, "He died. I knew it. I knew he wouldn't run away, even though he should have. But since he is my son, he certainly chose death over fleeing." All this conversation is being watched by someone who reports everything to someone else, the leader of the October organization. The October group's goal is to protect the world and eliminate the End's army. We will understand more soon. At the same time, two elderly men were fighting each other in the desert, and a member of the October organization is watching them. And in the elf village, they found out what the twins did and scold them. "How could you save one of the drifters? If the master finds out what you did, he will punish me." Outside the village, human soldiers were preparing their weapons. Shimazu and the others wake up to the smell of blood. They see fire coming from the forest. Nobunaga says, "This is the location of the elf village. Surely bandits have attacked the village." Shimazu says, "What does elf mean?" He says, "Those are the people living in the forest. They are the ones who brought you while you were injured." Hearing the word, he rushes there. "I will go see what is happening myself." And the other two won't leave him alone, so they run after him. Nobunaga is old and slower, and Yoichi was the fastest because he died at the age of 19. They find the two elf sisters, and behind them are knights. Shimazu asks them to step aside. A bullet pierces a knight's head. A leap splits the first one's body, then the second, and the third. He blocks a bit with him, so he breaks his sword in half and decapitates him. The attackers look clean and equipped. It's impossible for them to be bandits. For them to be bandits. They are definitely affiliated with one of the countries. Nobunaga says, "Well, since we're here, let's take control of the village." In the village, soldiers line up the elves. The elf leader says, "What happened?" The army commander says, "You violated the law. I received information that you entered the forest and helped the drifters, and even started making bows and arrows." The elf leader says, "Those are children. The children did this." He says, "Fine. Then the adults must pay the price." He draws his sword and kills the elf leader. He says to the soldiers, "You have authorization to reduce the number of elves. Kill half of them and leave the other half." The soldiers carry out the orders to the letter. Suddenly, a soldier appears and tells the commander, "Disaster. The wheat farms are burning. Fire hit the farms and spread." Nobunaga says, "Food. Humans suffer from hunger. Threatening food threatens their existence. To destroy a kingdom, I must strike its food sources. The purpose is not just targeting food, but also exploiting the smoke." Shimazu is called from amidst it and decapitates the first soldier. He hides amidst the smoke and appears with the head of the second, then the third, then the fourth. The soldiers are tired from what happened. A ghost appears from amidst the fire and kills them. He reaches the commander and says, "I want your head." The commander prepares himself. Shimazu, with an unexpected move, disarms him with his sword, scatters it, and in a moment pins him to the ground. He has no sword to fight with, so in the blink of an eye, he strikes his head with the sword once, twice, a third time, breaking his skull until he loses the ability to move. The elves stand horrified by what they see. Meanwhile, Yoichi has finished off all the soldiers who tried to escape. "No one will leave here alive. We don't want them to report to the human nation." Shimazu gets up and approaches one of the elves. He says to him, "Take this." The two don't understand each other's language, but he understands one thing from him. "Take the sword and kill this man. Avenge your family. Avenge your tribe members." The man grabs the sword, and not just him alone. Every one of the elves grabs the nearest weapon and descends upon the commander. They beat him, and there isn't a sound spot left on his body. Nobunaga and Yoichi arrive and say to the elves, "From today, the village is under our control." At the same time, the man sitting in the corridor, whom we learn is named Murasaki, appears before him, and a dark figure says to him, "Surrender. Your drifters can't do anything against me. I will be victorious in this battle, and my beasts will destroy the world." The October people at that time were in one of the human kingdoms, a kingdom undergoing a comprehensive attack. This attack is from the End's army. The kingdom's soldiers say to the October group, "Don't be afraid. It's impossible to breach the city walls. They will be like those before them." The leader of the October group hears this and says, "We are in trouble. This city will be destroyed in 2 days unless I do something." He goes to the castle commander and says to them, "Most likely, we will lose the battle. The only way to win is for these two to lead the army." "Who? You want us to lead the army?" "Two old men who can barely walk on their own." But what they don't know is that the first is Hannibal, the Carthaginian commander who was called the Nightmare of the Roman Empire, and the second is Scipio Africanus, the Roman commander who fought Hannibal in 2 battles. Of course, the soldiers won't surrender the castle to these 2 strangers they're seeing for the first time. So a leader of the October organization gives the order. "Prepare the carriages for retreat. The castle will be destroyed, so we must flee." In the middle of the night, the End's army beats war drums. The End's army consists of all kinds of monsters, goblins, orcs, zombies, dragons, all gathered by the Black King. All gathered for one goal, the annihilation of the human race. They attack the castle and the Romans respond to them. Yards of arrows descend, but that doesn't stop the advance. They reach the walls to place ladders, and dragons support from above, targeting the soldiers and tearing them apart. At the same time, 3 of the Black King's leaders begin to move. The army reaches the top of the wall and kills the soldiers. The army moves like a flood, killing anyone in its path. But from the sky, a gate opens and a warplane appears from it. One of the drifters has arrived in these circumstances. He seems to have just come from war because the plane wasn't moving in the best shape. The one piloting it is Captain Noshi, a war pilot in the Japanese army who participated in World War II. He flies in the sky and finds something next to him. What is this next to me? A dragon? One of the End's army judges arrives and splits the gate. Ghosts appear from beside him, killing the guard soldiers. A second commander arrives and covers the place with fire. A third commander covers the place with ice. What are these people? Where are these abilities coming from? They open the gates, and the army entered the city. They attack every house and every street. No human will remain alive after this war. Captain Noshi sees the scene of the city burning and remembers Japan burning from American bombs. The October group managed to prepare a carriage for escape. It takes the 2 old men and 2 others who look like drifters, but we don't know who they are. The October leader says, our only chance is to join the other drifters. If we gather, we will have a slim chance of defeating the End's army. They run at full speed, but soldiers block their path. They bring out a Gatling gun and open fire. They move forward, killing 200 to 300 soldiers on the road. They exit the gate and find a dragon waiting for them. At that moment, Captain Noshi opens fire on it and shoots it down. Not just him, he shoots down all the dragons in the sky, one after the other, giving the others a chance to escape. He continues fighting until he runs out of ammunition and runs out of fuel, so he crashes the plane in the middle of the forest. The night ended with the city falling to the Black King. At the same time, with the October group monitoring Shimazu and the others, Nobunaga and Yoichi grab her from behind. Strangely, she can speak perfect Japanese. We will learn a lot of information from her. She tells them, my job is to monitor drifters. They say to her, who are the drifters? Say to her. She tells them, you are the drifters. You are the ones who were transported from another world. The October organization's mission is to help you fight and stop the Black King and the End's army. Wait, who is the Black King? What is the End's army? And why stop them anyway? She explains more to them and says, my name is Elmo. The October organization is a magical organization whose mission is to help the drifters. Drifters are humans who are warriors in their worlds and were transported to this world. Unlike the End's army, they were also transported from other worlds, but often they have lost their humanity. Many of its members are from non-human races. In short, the End's army is a killing machine, and its only goal is annihilation. To eradicate the human race, they gathered monsters under their banner and declared war. Nobunaga says to her, and where is your army? She says to him, we don't have an army. We are magicians. He says to her, where do you put that magic against an enemy army? Then we must have an army. She says to him, well, we receive support from kings and rulers. Nobunaga says to her, nonsense. Kings would never hand over their armies to individuals they are seeing for the first time. We are just mysterious people to them. Elmo says, well, what should we do? He says to her. It's clear. We occupy the countries and control them. So, I have a plan and have decided that Shimazu will be the king if you support us. Don't rush the plan. Shimazu says to him, wait, why me? He says to him, you are young and healthy, and I am an old man with diseases. He wants to control everything, but in secret. Fool. The scenario of the End's army attack has been repeated more than once, but this time is the strongest because their commander is different. The commander is the Black King. For the first time, someone has gathered all the monsters under his leadership. The city's fall cost him 1,000 monsters from his soldiers. This is a very small loss, but the difficult loss was the dragons. 4 dragons were shot down by Captain Noshi. Strangely, the Black King goes to treat the wounded himself. These actions made all the soldiers adore him and sacrifice their lives to carry out his orders. And the Black King orders 2 of the judges to set out and search for the drifters. And with the elves who are crying, when the humans find out what happened, they will kill us all. They find that they have already started moving. Yoichi enters and tries to communicate, but he doesn't understand them, and they don't understand him. Shimazu says, no, we need to communicate with them. She says to him, we are a magical organization. I have charms that allow me to speak all known languages. He said to her, "Well, can I have a charm for the elves?" He takes it and sticks it on Yoichi's face. "Now we can speak." Well, he can speak. And Elmo gives them a brief overview. Those in front of us are the elves. For 10 years, humans fought and enslaved them. Pagir's servants. They are distinguished by their long lives and long ears, but that's it. Shimazu enters and says to them, "Don't you feel ashamed?" And says to them, "Don't you feel ashamed? Will you remain like this forever, or do you want to obtain self-rule? You are the only ones who can repeat what one of you said. We want our own state." He says to them, "Well, and I will help you. Let's go build a state." Nobunaga stands happily. Shimazu has the skill of speech and encouraging people. Nobunaga says, "The king's soldiers are on their way. They might arrive after 3 days." Elmo says, "Previously the elves were divided into 11 tribes until the Orc Kingdom came. The Orc Kingdom invaded the lands of the elves, dwarves, wolfmen, and catmen, subjugating everyone under its control and expanding until they became the strongest empire in the world. But that was in the past. The founder of Orc died a while ago, and since then they have begun to weaken and lost some wars." Nobunaga says, "This is our opportunity," and after 3 days the human soldiers arrive at the village. The place is completely empty. There is no trace of the elves because they were hiding in the forest trees, and that's not the problem. The well water was thrown into it, waste, and the toilet places disappeared. What happened, and why did they do this? Nobunaga gathers the remaining soldiers, 20 armor, 20 swords, and with them 2 horses. The problem is that the elves are not the best at using swords. They very much love bows and arrows. That's why Yoichi started intensive courses and training in teaching aiming. Nobunaga takes Shimazu and reaches the pit. A pit where he collected the bodies of all the human soldiers he killed, mixed them with dirt, urine, and waste. All this to create nitrates. This will happen after a while when the bodies decompose, but we are missing an important element, which is sulfur, Gikaki. And Elmo says, "We can provide sulfur." I wonder what he wants to do with them. Shimazu gathers with the elves and says to them, "Today we will take the village. We will eliminate the army there, and then we will continue until we reach the human castle and cut off the leader's head." He says this because he found out what happened. The humans gathered the elf people and put them in the main castle prisons. That's why they want to kill the commander controlling the castle and free the elf people. In the middle of the night, 2 guards are standing, sniffing the air, so they take 2 arrows to the neck. The soldiers are looking for water. Shimazu appears before them and kills them. A rain of arrows falls on them. Shimazu lures the soldiers to the south of the village because this is Nobunaga's plan. He drew the soldiers to the south of the village, so he and the remaining elves advance to the north of the village. They build a wooden barrier to protect them from the soldiers and begin shooting flaming arrows. Every arrow burns a house, and a ring of fire surrounds the soldiers. The soldiers standing in the south now cannot escape except from the front, where Shimazu is waiting for them, or return to the north and find Nobunaga and the other elves shooting arrows and hunting them. And these are not just ordinary arrows because they mix them with feces. You surely know what I mean by feces. So even if they don't die, they get infected wounds. A very nasty plan. And amidst the soldiers' confusion, Shimazu shoots forward like an arrow and penetrates the ranks. With a strike, he beheads the commander. The commander is dead, so the soldiers flee the place. And here comes the time for the alternative plan. Yoichi and a few elves were waiting in the forest, setting traps that kill anyone they hit. Whoever is lucky enough to escape will find an arrow hitting his face and killing him. So we finish the plan? No, not yet. They take the soldier's armor and wear it. After 3 days in the main castle, the commander was waiting for the army he sent to the elf village. Since it arrived, there has been no news about them. A soldier enters and says, "The army has arrived." This army is Nobunaga and the others. The fools open the gate without confirming who they are. The soldiers enter the castle and remove their armor. From now on, the castle is under our control. And they find out that the elf people are in the prisons, so they rush and kill anyone they meet except the last soldier who threw down his sword and surrendered. Shimazu says to the elves, well, since he surrendered, there is no need to kill him. They reach the prison and find the shock. The elf people have been tortured and assaulted. I was wrong. Let me go back and kill the soldier we spared and kill all the humans present in the castle. Nobunaga goes to the records room and steals everything in it. He finds a giant painting of the founder of the Orc Kingdom from 60 years ago. This man appeared out of nowhere. We don't know his origin or where he was born. We are even suspecting that one of the drifters started inciting people to revolt against the government. His speeches and the power of his words affected the people, overthrew the government, and he assumed power. After that, he established an expansionist policy and brought the Orc Kingdom to its current state. But one day, he decided to commit suicide and no one knows the reason. One of the elves enters Nobunaga and says to him, Shimazu gathered the castle soldiers in the yard and decided to kill them. And indeed, Shimazu lines up the soldiers against the wall, and behind them the elves prepare their arrows. One of the soldiers says, I swear I didn't do anything. I just started working today for the first time. Shimazu doesn't listen to anything and says to the soldiers, fire. But Nobunaga gives him a blow that knocks him unconscious. He looks at the elves and says to them, shoot, kill all the soldiers. The arrows pierce their heads and kill everyone. Not everyone. There is one still alive, the one who said, I just got employed today. Shimazu wakes up and Nobunaga says to him, leave the dirty work to me. You are still too young for execution operations like these. My hands are covered in blood, and I am used to executing prisoners. They took control of the castle and the bodies are transferred next to their sisters in the pit to increase nitrate production. And the elves returned to the village. At that time, rumors spread to the other elf villages. They want freedom. They want their own state. Join us in the war against the Orc Kingdom. And the elf villages began to revolt, one after another. Every village helps the village next to it. And the area of the Orc Kingdom is shrinking over time. The Orc Kingdom's leadership council meets. We must find a solution to the revolutions that have swept the kingdom's lands. Well, what should we do? Use force to subdue them? Someone strange and suspicious enters the room. Count Saint Jeremy, a great lord in the Orc Kingdom who owns a third of the kingdom's lands. He was the right hand of the founder of the Orc Kingdom, and the strongest army divisions are under his command. He says to them, I came to bring you bad news. Our army, while expanding in the south, clashed with the merchants' nation. These are people who don't know defeat and are considered to control the sea. Unfortunately, they managed to destroy our fleet. The council says, it's okay, we can send a second army to support them. Jeremy says to himself, enough. This council has some idiots who can't see that the kingdom is collapsing. I must save myself and arrange my future. And he says to the council, peace be upon you. I remembered I have an important appointment. He leaves to his soldiers and says to them, prepare the carriage, we are going to visit the elf forces. And with the elves who are receiving the second elf tribes for the first time, the 11 elf tribes gather under one banner. And Nobunaga was continuing his operation of mixing the soldiers' bodies in waste with dirt. He even adds pig waste to them. One of the elves comes to him and says, I did what you said and showed the rifle to all the elf blacksmiths, but they all agreed on the difficulty of making a copy of it. Maybe the dwarves are better in this aspect. They are already famous for blacksmithing. He meets with Shimazu and Yoichi and says to them, we must head to the dwarf villages. But he hears a sound from outside. Someone is approaching us. From afar, they see judges of the En's army heading towards the elf villages. They arrive at the village's forefront. A poor elf wakes up from sleep to see what is happening, so he finds his body split in half. What did I do? What did I do? And the second burns in the elf soldiers, saying, where are the drifters present here? Shimazu appears before him and says, someone is calling. The elves flee to the mountains, except for the soldiers who go with Nobunaga to the forest to face the soldiers who will arrive, because the leaders arrived before the soldiers. Yoichi will face the tall one, and his name is Gilles de Ries, a real historical figure from the Middle Ages who lived in France and was executed for killing nearly 400 to 500 children. He will face Yoichi in an unequal battle. The man uses a spear, and his strength is terrifying to the extent that he can cut a wall with one strike. Shimazu faces the fire warrior. He surrounds the place with fire to prevent him from escaping. The guy has an excess use of power. Omen appears and creates stones to protect him. She says to him, my job is to protect the drifters. He says to her, I see no use for you. What is your ability exactly? She says to him, the only thing I can do is create stones and now I can only make 2. He says to her, good. If we use them correctly, we can defeat this man. This man is very strong, but he is an amateur. From his movements, I confirm that he has no combat experience, like a young child who found a sword and started waving it everywhere. At the same time, in the forest, knights of the En's army are heading to support the leaders, but Nobunaga was monitoring them. A trap in the middle of the forest. He explains the horse's legs and the soldiers fall to the ground and arrows fall on them, killing them. The support was eliminated, so now the focus is on the 2 leaders with us. Shimazu appears before the commander, so he says to him, the mouse fell into the trap, and he blocks the road from the right and the left. I won't let you escape from me. Shimazu says to him, from my eye. And Omen also creates a wall behind him so that even retreating is no longer an option. The commander attacks with fire, so Omen forms the second stone, which gives a pushing force. He jumps on the commander and gives him a blow to the stomach, takes him, and descends with him into a water well. In the water, he won't be able to use firepower, and at that moment, he remembers the past. He remembers being crucified and burned. The church arrested him, or her, because in reality, she is a woman. Joan of Arc, her real name. Her charge was practicing magic and heresy, which at that time was punishable by death. She was transported to this world hating humans and with the ability to control the fire that was burning her. Shimazu discovers that she is a girl. All this time, the enemy was a girl. Unfortunately, in our divisions, we don't kill women, and he leaves her in the well and walks away, and Yoichi continues fighting. All he does is dodge his strikes and then direct arrows. But until now, the opponent refuses to fall. The problem is that if he takes one hit, he will die. He directs one strike after another, but the man doesn't fall. The arrows hit his neck and he continues fighting. He gives him an arrow in the right eye and then a second arrow in the left eye. The man stands for seconds and then suddenly moves and wraps the rope around his neck, strangling Yoichi. The elf forces support with arrows and still he doesn't stop. Yoichi loses breath and suddenly the drifter's carriage and the Gatling gun appear. The bullets pierce Jill's body. His body turned into small silver pieces. There is a whole stash of 200 bullets. Finally, his body turns to ashes. Nobunaga looks at the carriage and says to them, "Who are you?" The man introduces himself and says, "I am a leader of the October organization. I am the first leader, Minu, and my name is Abe no Seimei." Nobunaga says, "What? Impossible. You are the famous Abe no Seimei." This man in history was a poet, writer, and known as an exorcist of evil spirit. On holidays, he fought in the army. Once he treated the emperor from a serious illness. When he died, they made a temple for him in Japan and began to worship him. He was a multi-talented man who died in the year 960 years before Yoichi. So this man was transported to this world a long time ago, a period that was enough for him to establish the October organization, add members to it, and fight the En's army. Shimazu returns and says to them, "Did you finish the battle?" They said to him, "Yes, and where did your opponent go?" He said to them, "I left her in the well." "What, you didn't kill her?" They return to the well and find that she has disappeared. Abe says to him, "Fool, why didn't you kill her? Your enemy, Shimazu?" He said to him, "There's a rule, killing women is forbidden." We learned that the way here, the En's army attacked them, and to be able to continue, Scipio Africanus tried to protect them. But he accidentally fell from the carriage, and under the pressure of the attack, they couldn't go back to search for him. Scipio Africanus, the great, walks in the forest, not knowing what to go right or left. Suddenly he finds a plane in front of him, and Captain Noshi appears. Captain Noshi says to him, "Are you American?" Noshi speaks Japanese and Scipio speaks Latin. The two don't understand each other. Scipio says one word to him, "Roma." Noshi thinks Roma. Roma means Italy, my friend. We are both fighting together in World War II, but he remembers that Italy surrendered in the middle of the war, so he hits him on the head. Away from this nonsense, Nobunaga looks at the empty shells that came out of the Gatling gun. This legendary weapon destroyed the monster's body. If we can manufacture it, we will crush any enemy standing in our way. The problem is that all the ammunition we have is finished. And Abe says, "Unfortunately, we cannot use these weapons because there is no gunpowder." Nobunaga says, "No problem. Gunpowder will be available soon." And by an amazing coincidence, a carriage from the October organization arrives carrying the sulfur he requested. The pit of bodies he made will produce nitrates, and with the addition of sulfur, it will become black powder, which is gunpowder. And thus, all that remains is the weapons we will put the gunpowder and bullets in. And for that, our next mission is the dwarf villages. We must liberate them from the Ort kingdom and then destroy the kingdom bit by bit. Our plan is to unify the races and form a union. Each race will govern itself, but the army is one and under the leadership of Shimazu, and in this way, we will be able to face the En's army. Shimazu meets with the elves and says to them, "We will liberate the dwarves." They say, "Dwarves? What do dwarves mean? We can never help this savage race." Throughout history, there has been conflict between elves and dwarves. The two don't like each other, like oil and water exactly. When the Ort kingdom first began expanding, the tribes of elves and dwarves didn't even think to help them. Shimazu hears this and says, "We will save the dwarves from the hands of the Ort kingdom. True warriors are those who will follow me." He leaves and the elves talk among themselves. The first tribe that was saved says, "We can't abandon him. He is the one who saved our lives, and we must help him. It's true that there is hatred between us and the dwarves, but if we liberate them, we will fix the situation. Maybe then we can have a friendship that lasts for generations." Abe takes the two who used the weapons and says to Shimazu, "We are returning to headquarters. We will search for Scipio Africanus and monitor the movements of the En's army. Ullman will stay with you, and also Hannibal. And the elf soldiers appear behind Shimazu and say to him, "We are under your command." Count Saint Germain is on his way to the elves to meet the drifters. He says, "I must make an agreement with them before the dwarf state falls, because if it falls, the orc kingdom will collapse." The dwarf city supplies the kingdom with half of the weapons they use. Suddenly, bombs fall on the city and destroy the watchtowers. This is the power of gunpowder that they were making. Most of the soldiers died and Shimazu had a few left and managed to kill them easily. Gunpowder was not only used in bombs, they also tied it to arrows so that when the arrow gets close to the target, it explodes. The ordinary soldiers were annihilated. A group of soldiers covered in armor from head to toe. Neither arrow nor sword can affect them. So Ullman uses spells and imprisons them inside rocks and places a bomb inside the cage, turning them into roasted chickens. The special forces died faster than the ordinary soldiers. Quickly, they raise the castle gate. How will we cross the walls? Hannibal signals to Nobunaga as if drawing a ladder, and Nobunaga immediately understands. He uses the magical ball specific to October, a ball for communication between members, something like a telephone. He calls Ullman and tells her the plan, and she immediately begins implementing it. She throws spells on the wall, forming stones in the shape of a ladder. Namatsu wasn't impressed by the plan. He was impressed by the communication ball. It could turn the outcome of any battle. Improving communication means between soldiers is the key to victory in any war. Shimazu and the rest of the soldiers used the ladders and climbed the wall. They managed to enter the city and killed a few soldier individuals because the rest were hiding inside the castle. The elf says to Shimazu, "The dwarves are strong. Their bodies are huge and skilled in using the axe. If we free them, they will help you." The idea is good. He goes to the prisons and finds them inside, but it seems they have tuberculosis. Their names are weak, and they have severe thinness. Their leader says, "The elves at the end of time." The elves came to help us. Doesn't matter. The important thing is to save us. The elf says to them, "Not us. The drifters are the ones who want to help you." The dwarves say, "Doesn't matter. The important thing is to help us and we will dream." Shimazu says, "And that's what is required. But why are you so thin? You look hungry." He leaves the battle and leaves the soldiers and starts preparing lunch. The castle soldiers stand shocked. "What is happening?" Shimazu says to them, "Wait a bit. The dwarves are eating. And after that, they will rise and eat you. If you surrender before they finish lunch, I will forgive you." They think about the current number of dwarves. We won't be able to face them. It seems the only solution is to surrender. Indeed, they open the gates with their hands raised. "We surrender." And they throw the weapons. Shimazu says, "Where is your command?" The commander steps forward and says, "We carried out what you said." Shimazu said to him, "Correct, but according to my custom, the losing commander must finish himself off. He must die because he failed the mission." The man says to him, "What do I have to do with your custom?" He said to him, "Won't you carry out the order?" The man is about to run, so Shimazu beheads him. The soldiers are terrified and run away from him. So Shimazu says to everyone, "Let them go. I gave them a promise and I must fulfill it." At the same time, October is monitoring the En's army and dealing with this army. The sixth strongest dragon in the world? Not only that, the orcs dig the earth and plant it. The Black King's goal is to destroy the world. It seems the information is wrong. He wants to destroy humans and build a civilization of monsters. The Black King says to the dragon, "Will you join us or not?" The dragon says to him, "Do you know who you are talking to?" He said to him, "It doesn't matter to me. There is no difference between you and the goblin." The dragon approaches him, so the king with one move makes the dragon scream in pain. The disease spreads in its body and its body cells disintegrate. You decide. Do you want to live or die? Your decision will determine your fate. The dragon says to him, I'm sorry. Okay, we will join you. Please stop what you are doing." The king says to him, "Welcome to my army." The Black King's ability is terrifying. His ability is essentially creating cells. He can heal any wound or even increase crop production, or it could be a new organ. This is the good side. For me. The terrifying side is that he can make the cells of the being in front of him multiply until it gets cancer. And in the elf village, we see the only soldier who survived the massacre. The elf said, "Let's benefit from him and let him do the paperwork." One of the elves says to him, "Come quickly." He goes out and finds a carriage entering the village, and Count Saint Germain gets off from it. The soldier meets him and says, "The drifters are not here. They are currently in the dwarf city. What he was afraid of happened and the city fell." At this time, the dwarves were having lunch, almost compensating for years of hunger that passed. The problem is that they finished their food reserves, and within 2 days, their bodies are returning to inflate again.
It's like you brought a tire inflator.
Nobunaga says to them, "Enough eating. I want you to see the rifle I have." They see it and say, "A weapon made of metal with a wooden handle. Very simple. But what is its benefit?" He says to them, "We put gunpowder in the weapon, and with it a metal body, and when the gunpowder explodes, the body hits the target and kills it. The dwarves say, like arrows and bows? So what's the benefit of it? Bows are easier and serve the same purpose. Nobunaga said to them, Fear. Bows don't make any sound, but guns and gunpowder sow terror in the enemies. The enemy, when he sees you have this weapon, will be afraid to attack you. More importantly, you don't need training. Any farmer or child in the street will take this weapon, and in a second, he will turn into a warrior. Joan of Arc wakes up and finds herself in the Black King's castle. The king is the one who treated her himself. When she learns that Gilles de Ries died in battle, we learn that the drifters come to this world through Murasaki. Yes, the man sitting at the desk who transports the End's army members is the dark man in front of him. It seems there is a war happening between the two, and each one uses his tools. The dwarves begin manufacturing the rifle, and in one day, they finish. Nobunaga is amazed by what he saw. He says to them, Well, if we want to increase production, how many weapons can you make for me? The dwarves say, It's not as easy as swords or armor. We can make 8. Nobunaga said to them, Only 8. I thought they were better than that. The dwarves say, This is a new invention. At most, we can make 8 every day. He said, Every day? I thought they were per month. Okay, you are a respectable man. Let's start production. And Shimazu was talking with the dwarf fighting teams and learns that they are skilled in using the sword and axe. And this is unlike the elves who can only use arrows and bows. And suddenly, someone appears next to Nobunaga. Count Saint-Germain has arrived. And Elmo. One of the drifters says to her, You know all this information. Surely you know who founded the Ord Kingdom. The one who founded it is a person whose name should not be mentioned on YouTube because it will give me a strike. Maybe I'll put this picture. It's better. He really resembles him. He ruled Germany in World War II. Nobunaga says to him, What brings you here? He says to them, I am a trader. I came to sell you the Ort Kingdom. Sell it because it still has a price. If I wait a bit, it won't be worth anything. In short, I came to join hands with you. If we go to war, the kingdom will be destroyed. So in my opinion, let's do a military coup. We take control of the country with the least possible losses. But first, let me get to know you. He starts with Shimazu. He says to him, I remember you. You were living in the year 1600. The second is Yoichi. He says, I know you. The famous archer from the Good War. You are more famous than fire. The last Nobunaga. You are also famous. Well, who is the old man there? Nobunaga says to him, I swear I don't know. The October group left him with us and left. Count Saint-Germain lived approximately until 1750. He was born in France and was a composer and philosopher. He says to them, the best of good is its immediate start. Let's get to the task. And he takes the carriage and returns to the kingdom. Shimazu and the others were inside it, and they claim that there are knights from the elves and dwarves coming behind them, so they allow them to enter. Saint-Germain meets with the country's leaders and says to them, I have important news. Today I decided to dismantle the Ord Kingdom. We will reconstitute it with new leadership, and our leader is Shimazu. They say, what nonsense are you talking about? This is high treason against the kingdom. They call the guards to arrest him, but goodbye, all the guards were killed by Yoichi. In fact, the entire castle has been taken control of. Saint-Germain says, I am a democratic man. Those who agree with my plan, raise your hands. 1, 2, 3 raised their hands, and of course he had bribed them before the meeting started. 2 others say, we are with dismantling the empire, but what about the Black King's army? These 2 are controlled by a leader from the End's army, and this person is Rasputin. Rasputin lived in the late 19th century. He was a magician, doctor, and charlatan. He was born in Russia, and his personality was a bit strange. He was close to the Tsar of Russia, and was assassinated by the Tsar's brothers. Shimazu and the others reach Rasputin. Rasputin says, guests. Then I must introduce myself. My name is Rasputin, assistant to the Black King. But the king is busy now burning one of the human countries. And don't worry, your turn is coming. Suddenly the door opens, and forces from the End's army enter, but Shimazu immediately jumps on them and beheads them one after the other. The operation didn't take more than a minute. He says to Rasputin, your presence here is unacceptable. And he strikes the person Rasputin is controlling. If he kills the person Rasputin is controlling, he will surely disappear. He strikes him without a moment's hesitation until Rasputin disappears. Rasputin's plan was to occupy the city without fighting, but in the face of Shimazu's strength, the plan failed. The Black King heard what happened. The peaceful subjugation plan failed. Okay, get ready for war. Take the army and go there. Destroy as much as you can and burn as much as you can. The important thing is that we weaken the drifters' strength. Nobunaga anticipated what happened and brought with him individuals from the elves and some from the dwarves. Saint-Germain says to him, and I have a force from the army numbering 500. He said to him, 500. What is this weak number? Saint-Germain says to him, I calculated on military dogs. I didn't expect the war to start. but the 500 soldiers look strong. We might benefit from them. He brings out the rifles manufactured by the dwarves. They managed to make 100 rifles. This division will be under the command of Nobunaga, Flo. The division of dwarf fighters will be under the command of Shimazu. And the division of elf archers will be under the command of Yuichi. An Omen will be stationed at the palace base to receive information from here and deliver it to the division. And after a day in the middle of the night, the En's army arrives. A huge procession of soldiers advances. Nobunaga prepares the soldiers with him and, at the appropriate moment, gives them the order to fire. Unlike current weapons that have one bullet, he managed to put many small bullets like pellets, the power, and it covers. The rifle carriers cover to reload the weapons with gunpowder and the new bullets, and then the second round begins, a state of harmony between the rifle users and the archers. And of course Shimazu must have a role. He advances with the dwarf army and eliminates the remaining soldiers. Until now, the battle is one-sided, so their commander gives the order. Dismantle the army and let it spread in the narrow street. Burn everything in front of you until you reach the command building. And indeed, the plan begins, and they destroy the city, and their commander appears before Shimazu, and we learn that his name is Yoshitsugu. He was from the police force at the time. The Shimazu tribe was one of the most opposed to Japan's opening to European civilization, so he faced them throughout his service period until he was killed by them. That's why he hates the Shimazu tribe with blind hatred. He uses his ability that summons ghosts in the form of samurai. Shimazu interacts with the strikes, and when he tries to respond, the ghost turns into vapor and reforms again. He takes hits one after another, so he jumps on the wall to reach Yoshitsugu. But the man is strong. He doesn't just rely on the ghosts, he himself is very strong in using the sword. Nobunaga was puzzled about how to face the army in front of him. The number of soldiers under his management won't allow him to spread them in the city. Hannibal says to him, "Look like this," and throws berries next to each other and steps on them. Nobunaga thinks, what is the genius of this man? He tells Yuichi to monitor the enemy army and inform me of what you see. He monitors them for a while and says to him, the army is burning houses, but their movement is not random. The small teams are slowly getting closer to each other, so they are definitely heading to the command building. Well, then let's prepare the building they want for them. We gather them in one place and crush them. And the fighting between Shimazu and Yoshitsugu continues. Yoshitsugu summons another ghost, so Shimazu protects his body with his hands. All this to give time to Nobunaga. Nobunaga, who mined the building with the gunpowder he made, waited for the moment the soldiers entered, and as soon as they entered, he blew up the building with all the Yen's army soldiers inside. Whoever managed to escape from them finds the soldiers in front of them with rifles and finishes the task. Now, only Yoshitsugu remains. He brings out the strongest ghost he has. But the dwarves arrive and open fire on the ghosts, vaporizing, and Shimazu delivers a low blow that knocks him to the ground, and with his sword will behead him, but he stops him. The two fight each other. You feel like the matter has turned into a boxing match. Suddenly, Ninja appears and pulls Yoshitsugu from the middle of the battle. After the army's defeat, they had to withdraw. The Black King lost the first round against the Drifters. Finally, they managed to control the part ruled by Count Saint-Germain. It's true that 30% of the city was destroyed and the government building was burned, but we controlled it, thank God. The problem now is with the rest of the kingdom. When they find out what happened, they will likely demand self-rule, so we must prepare the army and control them. The October members who saw the dragon decided to enter themselves to see what is happening. As soon as they entered, they were shocked by what they saw. The city seems under human control. The monsters have established markets and begun trade. And they also find the bronze dragon. The Black King covered it with silver and killed it and began cutting it into parts to sell. This, and there is also a slave market where monsters sell humans. And also in the restaurant market they make soup and trotters from humans. Did I enter hell or what? Suddenly one of the leaders appears from behind them and says, "Spies." He tries to hit him, but he dodges and strikes him in the middle of the head, killing him. The second says to him, "We saw everything." He says to him, "You haven't seen anything yet. Come, let me show you the rest before you die." A huge wall, and behind it is the En's army. The matter is no longer limited to orcs and goblins. There are giants and half-horses, and they also make weapons and armor for them. The Black King appears and says, "Enough monitoring until now. I know you are present, show yourself." Abe appears from behind the man. He had planted a spell on him to see what was happening. Abe says to the Black King, "What is your goal?" The Black King says to him, "It's better we talk about your goals. You want humanity to live, and that's why you help the Drifters. I heard that you made rifles and gunpowder, but humans made them without you. Maybe after 100 years, or 200, or even 500, but what happened is that you sped up the process. Certainly in the future, they will choose weapons stronger than rifles, and that's what I don't want. Humans alone can build a civilization. This speech is correct, but before I arrived, I gathered the monsters under my authority. I taught them trade, industry, and agriculture. Monsters, unlike humans, cannot invent destructive weapons and inventions. Therefore, my plan is to destroy humans, destroy them, and replace them with a more peaceful race. And no matter how hard your organization tries, you will not be able to stop my plan. Abe says, "We can, me and the drifters, stop you at your limit." Until now, we do not know the identity of the Black King. Nobunaga brings out a map of the kingdom. The kingdom's army is divided into 5 brigades or 4 because the 5th was annihilated at sea by the Merchants' Union. The 2nd army is the largest in number. Their task is to control the Wolfmen and Catmen. But 2 days ago, we received a message that they are requesting support, and since then, we don't know what happened. We see what is happening to the 2nd army. It is Captain Noshi and Scipio Africanus the Great. The two managed to control the Wolfmen and started the revolution against the 2nd army. Scipio Africanus the Great is one of the greatest leaders of the Roman Empire, so his plans turned the course of the battle. And with the Merchants' Union, the union that crushed the 5th army of the Ord Kingdom. The union is under the leadership of 2 people, and they are Moshi and Kan. And they have a 3rd guest who is a leader in the naval fleet, and his name is Taman. One of the drifters who was transported here with his ship. He found himself transported while in the midst of World War II. He is the main reason for superiority over the Ord Kingdom, and the 3 decided to send an envoy to the Ord Kingdom to conclude a peace agreement. After we destroyed the 5th army, we want to be left alone. You don't harm us, and we don't harm you. So now we know the status of the 2nd and 5th armies. The remaining 3rd and 4th armies are strong and stable armies because they have leaders who rule with iron and fire. Nobunaga says, leaders like these are in our interest. We can exploit them if they find out that the central authority has fallen. They will certainly rebel against the rule, he tells St. Jeremy. I want you to prepare 2 messages and write in them what I will tell you, and send them to the leaders. He sends the 2 messages and tells them what happened in the kingdom. It's exposure to attack from the Black King's army, and says in them that he needs the 3rd army and the 4th army to seize power. The 3rd army commander heard the message and said, "Power? Then certainly the one who arrives first will get the power." He sets out with his army to the capital. The same message reached the 4th army, and they did the same thing, but on the way they find a barrier blocking. The 3rd army appears and soldiers from the 3rd army kill the 4th army commander, and the 3rd army is heading to the capital. According to the plan, Yuichi was waiting with individuals from the elves, directing arrows and waiting for the appropriate moment. And in a second, he shoots an arrow that takes down the commander. The soldiers saw the commander dead, so they flee the place. Now the 3rd army thinks that the 4th army killed the commander, and the 4th army is sure that the 3rd army killed the commander. So certainly the 2 will soon clash, and that's not the end. Nobunaga says these 2 armies are standing on the Western Front. So he tells St. Jeremy, send a message to the tribes there about what happened. Certainly, in light of the instability, they will attack the 2 armies and destroy them. He said to him, you are sacrificing the soldiers. We need them to fight the Black King. Nobunaga said to him, it's impossible for me to control them in the absence of a leader. They will fight each other until one of them takes leadership, and it is impossible for them to accept a stranger like me. Getting rid of them is the best solution. Nobunaga is like a devil and does not care about people's lives. What is important to him is success. Taman, while on his ship, finds 2 people appearing next to him, drifters who use firearms. And since I forgot to tell you, these were bandits in America who rob people and attack banks. This was during the days of the cowboys, and therefore they are very skilled in using pistols and rifles. And behind them Abe appears and says to him, we need you. Count St. Jeremy learns that an envoy has arrived from the Merchants' Union and wants to make a peace treaty. He enters to meet him, but the shock is that the envoy is Moshi, the leader of the Union himself. He says to St. Jeremy, you started the battle and lost it. I wonder what the peace terms are? St. Jeremy said to him, a simple peace. Peace without any conditions so that we allow you to continue the trade movement. You did win the war, but basically you are merchants. If the war continues, your trade will stop, and you won't be able to operate the ships anyway. And don't forget that the Black King is fighting the countries, and we are the only ones standing against him. And note that everything I said has nothing to do with the future, because now we have weapons that could change the war. Do you see this in front of you? It's called a rifle. Do you want me to show you its power? Moshi says to him, no, I don't want to. This is because he heard about these weapons from Taman, and confirmed that if the war continues, he will lose because of the new weapons. So he said, okay, I agree to the treaty. a peace treaty that allows us to continue the trade movement. We must maintain our strength until we finish the matter of the Black King. And with the wolfmen and catmen who are controlled by Noshi, the two firearm users reach him and say, "We have a written message." On the message from Talman, he saw the name and was shocked. The message talks about the warship with him, the ship owned by the Japanese Navy, and asks him to come to the ship to discuss war matters. Taman was a famous name in the Japanese army and was known as the Butcher Taman. At this time, the Black King launched a new campaign, but it was much stronger than the previous campaign. One thing distinguished it: the giants. Without any help from the leaders, they managed to destroy the walls and breach the city in much less time than the last time. They carried out a massacre and formed hills of human bodies. The few soldiers who remained alive decided to head to the Orc Kingdom. It is the only place that can face the Black King. Noshi arrives at the ship and meets Tame. Taman died before Noshi in the war because the Japanese fleet was the first thing to be destroyed. But amazingly, this ship is originally an aircraft carrier. It has 21 planes all, only, but repairable. And there is fuel and ammunition in acceptable quantities. And not only that, there are crates of rifles. So the dwarves were tiring themselves for what? And more importantly now, what will happen when all these weapons are directed against the En's army and the Black King? And that's it. That was all we have. I summarized all the anime and OVA that were released. If anything else is released, I will be the first to do it. So tell us your rating for the anime. I really enjoyed watching it and give it a 9.5 out of 10. I want to see your opinions in the comments. And don't forget to like and subscribe to the channel if this is your first time. And we'll see you in a new video. Peace.